let's get into the Buffalo Bills now. If you guys haven't already, hit that subscribe button and smash that bell notification so we can send you guys a message every time we post new content. All right, let's just get right into the Bills, because this team to me is very odd when you look at them on a stat sheet. Okay, so they have the second best offense in points per game, but they have the seventh best rushing attack and the seventh best passing attack. The rushing attack is very inflated. The team is not great on set run plays.
No.
However, Josh Allen is so elite at scrambling and creating yards outside of the pocket that it works for them. That they'll drop back and they'll end up running the ball on about half their plays and only call a set run play on about a quarter of their plays. And so that's what, to me, what makes this offense so hard to defend is the fact that Josh Allen can he can drop back and then just burn you for 50 yards. And one of the things I will knock their offense for this year, they seemed like a little bit of a wild card. Josh Allen, in my opinion, sailed a few more balls over receivers' heads this year than he did in years past. Missed some more routine throws than when Brian Dabble was there and helping him out. So that is something I would really like to see cleaned up. And to me, that was the thing that really separated them from the Bengals and the Chiefs in those close games. So
especially, it almost seemed like it, and not to bring out, well, I guess I'll single out the one game, but it's like after the Vikings game, it did kind of seem like this offense was less lethal. Like they could have those moments, but it felt like over the past couple of years when Dable was the offensive coordinator, it's like at any given play, it's like Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs could connect on a 60-yard bomb, whether it be a bomb or it could be a slant, and the scheming and blocking was just perfect to where then he just ran all the way up the field. It seemed like they just started to lose a lot of their predictability. Is what it seemed like. Gabe Davis and Isaiah McKenzie had good years, but I feel like they lacked maybe a little bit on what a Super Bowl winning team, number 2 receiver, number 3 receiver might have. And that was the things I noticed as well. Another thing also just with PFF, this offensive line was ranked 23rd. Yeah. And if I remember correctly, I think that they've done decently well. They were well above average offensive line over the past couple of years.
They were about average. This year, I think they just had more injuries than normal. I know in the first Patriots game, they were playing with a left tackle off their practice squad.
That's going to be it's going to be bad.
And so, well, I mean, they still won. It didn't make a difference, but that's neither here nor there.
No.
But it's just interesting because they have this big play potential, yet it sometimes feels like a loose cannon. I don't know. It felt more out of control this year than in years past, where it was more controlled chaos, I guess, under Dabble. And I do want to give some props to their defense. I actually didn't think their defense was as good as it was on paper. But they had the 5th best rushing defense and the 15th best passing defense. And for a team whose secondary, I mean, was depleted very early on. I remember in the Ravens game, I think Micah Hyde and Jordan Poyer both went out with injuries. And then, Dane Jackson at one point was their number 1 corner after their first round pick. Kyer Elam got hurt. And then obviously the DeMar Hamlin situation. And it just felt like one guy after the other just kept getting hurt in their secondary.
Well, and it's funny you say that as well, because another thing I also noticed, and it was after the Von Miller injury, is this defense seemed like it was giving up a little bit more than normal. That ability to stop any offense on a 3 and out. I feel like that kind of went away, and we saw that with the especially I just noticed in the Bengals game as well. where they just could not get after Joe Burrow. That Cincinnati Bengals offensive line kind of dominated that defensive front the entire game, especially in that snowy weather. That was a game. It was going to be tough for all teams to throw the ball and to run the ball. He thought that it would have been a little bit more impactful.
Yeah.
And
what was
oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say, like with that game in particular, the Bengals with 2 or 3 backup offensive linemen blew Buffalo off the ball almost every single running play. Like in the second half specifically, I think Joe Mixon was getting 2 to 3 yards before he was even getting touched by a Bills player. And that is just not a recipe for success when especially when playing in the snow.
Yeah. Well, and this is one too, and I will recognize it's probably unfair for us to say this, and this is where it's like expectations. Like if the Texans had this season that the Bills had, it would have been like, what a season, like by the Houston Texans. The expectations for the Bills were Super Bowl contending teams, and
to be fair, they were that.
They were that. Oh, I mean, they made it to the AFC divisional round. They had the game. It just seemed that there just wasn't as much like scariness about the team, especially in the later half of the year.
And especially in the second half of the year, they made a lot more unprecedented mistakes that they did in years past. Starting with, you said, with the Vikings game with that fumble in the end zone. And so that to me kind of kicked off.
Well, I guess the fumble as well.
Yeah. And so an interesting season. Going into the offseason, though, they have a tough outlook, in my opinion. They have a lot of key free agents: Jordan Poyer, Jordan Phillips, Tremaine Edmonds, Jamison Crowder, Devin Singletary, and Shaq Lawson to start. And there's more on top of that. They only have 6 draft picks, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They have a pick in each of the first rounds. And then cap space, this is where they really kind of get the knock. They're at 19.4 million over the cap for me, according to PFF. So, and they have, in my opinion, some significant needs to fill. With the loss of Jordan Phillips and Shaq Lawson, and most likely Tremaine Edmonds, unless they put a franchise tag on him and clear some cap space. Like that defensive front is going to take a big hit, and they will not repeat as the top 5 run defense in the NFL.
Yeah. Well, even then though, I mean, so they're already 19.5 million. Then Jordan Poyer's going to be 32 here in a couple months. Do you sign him? I mean, or are you just trying to retool this whole defense, in general? Like,
it's looking like a full defensive rebuild. I was looking at some of the ways that I think that they could cut some cap space. They would have to restructure Josh Allen's contract extension, restructure Stephon Diggs' contract, and then and then cut Naheem Hines and a couple other players to get like 8 million, like to get to 8 million in cap space. And it's like, I get the cap is crap, but they're really putting that to the test this offseason, because they still have Von Miller's contract, and then Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs on top of that. And it's just, and then they still have to retool the rest of this team.
And I just want to make sure I understand too. So when they restructure a deal, they're just pushing cap space, right, to later seasons.
Yeah. So there's just ways to kind of like, I guess, lower their cap hit. And one way is to push it to later seasons. One is to like, hey, if you restructure and you only make 35 a year, we'll give you a signing bonus of 15 million right now. Like,
okay.
Yeah. And so that's that's one way, another way around it. Which is kind of cheap. I don't think you should be able to do that, but it's
like if everyone does it, if a football, someone's not going to turn down $50 million instantly.
Well, no,
especially in a non-guaranteed contract either. So
and so that's the like kind of how they do it. And that's a very basic example. I know there's more to it than just like signing a restructure and you get a signing bonus. But yeah, they're still going to be good as long as Josh Allen's there, Sean McDermott, and I forget who their offensive coordinator's name. But they're still going to be good. Stephon Diggs isn't going anywhere. I know there were trade rumors because he was upset on the sideline, but to me, they're still the favorite to win this division, unless like an Aaron Rodgers goes to New York. That would be totally different. So,
yeah, I feel less sure about the dominance that the Bills had of this division, but I mean they've won the division the past 3 years now, right?
3 years.
Yeah. So it's like they've had a good stranglehold of this division. Other teams are adapting and everything. They're not going to go through a rebuild at all, but this, it comes up every single year. I think that they are still in a good place. I'm just not realizing that Gabe Davis is 23. I didn't realize he was that young. And so I feel like he's been in the league forever. And so still with that combination, he can keep improving. If they can, similar to Miami, it's improve that offensive line a little bit and establish more of a powerful run game. I think that there are some interesting running backs in this draft that I think that they can go after. I don't know if I would take Bijan Robinson with your first pick, but I think he would be deadly in this offense because he's a 3-down back, but then also he could burn you in the flat as well. And so that might be a little rich, especially for all the needs that they do have coming up.
That's what I was going to say. To me, I think that's a really risky pick.
Yeah.
With the needs that they have.
Yeah. But I think running back is definitely a position that they will address. But I agree with you, though, that it is one of the many things that they need to address, and maybe that might not be the best position. And then it's just fun to think about with Bijan Robinson and how exciting he is.
Yeah, I really think they need to go in the trenches with their first couple picks. Get a solid run defender, get a solid run blocker. Maybe a nice guard. This would be a great place, I think, for Osiris Torrance to go. If he falls to 28. No, they're 20. They're not quite at 28.
Yeah,
they're like 26. I think
26. Yeah.
And so I think that's a place to look out for Osiris Torrance to go. I don't know if he makes that far, but if he does, that's a good spot. So yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have any other thoughts on the Bills?
No, it's great season. This was a little bit more negative, but you're a Patriots fan, so I'm sure you love it.
Well,
and so
it's not negative because I'm a Patriots fan. It's just how I felt about the Bills, and like their cap space and free agent situation is not great.
It is a gloomy outlook. It definitely just on it. I'm sure they're going to figure out the problem. I'm sure they're going to compete for the division and make the playoff next year. But it definitely, you just put those two pieces together and you're like, okay, this is going to be a little bit tougher coming out of this.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think that's going to wrap up the Buffalo Bills. Really, like you said, really good season. More of a gloomy outlook for the offseason. But again, they're still my favorite to win the division in 2023.